Hi everyone, welcome to Truth Pups. I'm Johnny Puggle and we're giving you our updates of what's happening. One of our first updates has to do with Maui and what was happening there. The real truth is there's a lot of different things that happened there that we gave a report on last week. But this is the one that's really been coming out, the truth that comes from the United States Space Force that was connected to Cheyenne Mountain. Trump created this. And inside of Maui, there was the Maui Space Surveillance Complex that is controlled by the United Space Force Operations. And their location, it's the location for the 15th Space Surveillance Squadron. And it's ran by the Air Force with Space Force. And here they have all the surveillance systems for the world that Space Force has been using to capture the wars, capture what's going on with the elections. And they're doing a lot of stuff having to do with China, having to do with Taiwan, having to do with all the different parts of the world. And Space Force has been doing a lot of gathering. They have a lot of technology to where they can track phones. It's kind of hard to tell a lot of classified information of the technology that Space Force is also using. Nanotechnology. They're also using the deep state that sprays like nanotechnology, and they're spraying aluminum barrier. They're creating 3D sonars, that you can see within the human grid systems through the world, and they're using these human or these sonar systems that are 3D that can be graphed into a computer. So anyway, Space Force has been using this also. Whatever the deep state was using, they're also using this. So to make the long story short, and Maui was attacked because the deep state is getting really scared. Military operations are getting closer. So part of all of these energy-directed weapons, this fire that was intentionally started over in Lahaina, and with the big storm system that was intentionally created, this is an attack on the United States Space Force. But behind the scenes, behind the cables, the military wire says the past 3 months, United States Space Force has been pulling out a lot of their computer systems, data servers, and all the information, and they were exchanging it with these things that were called duds, military computer duds and stuff, and everything was kind of fake. The past 3 weeks were a lot of military flights going in and out, and they were leaving stuff because they knew the deep state was planning to attack, and they wanted to use the 5G system to fry computers, to get rid of a lot of stuff, and then to blame the wildfires. And this is also connected to Putin, got wind of what was going to happen. So that's why Putin, 1 week before, he pulled down the 5G towers. So this is a little bit of information that's running around through the military wires. And then speaking of the military, the Department of Defense, they have a bunch of different tactical forces. And one of them, it has to do with Jan Hayes. Now Jan Hayes is hitting some Q channels, some different channels, some podcast channels that's connected to Patriot movements. And she's given openly overt operations that's connected to the U.S. military. And it's no longer a conspiracy, as she confirms. She says it herself. The military knows, the Department of Defense knows that the 2020 election, there was a lot of fraud going on, and it was a stolen election. So she actually confirms this. And now that she's working with the military to gauge how much people are awake, and she says this, how much people are inside the awakening community. So she's talking about the Great Awakening, which is also military projects, to help people awaken, like the Epstein, with the Q, with all these different projects around the world in different countries that have different names to help people awaken. And that's the Alliance projects through the military alliance. But Jan Hayes, who has classified clearance, and she admits it, that she's allowed to speak about this now in this time, and the Department of Defense knows she's out there. She's doing interviews, and she talks about the 2020 elections were stolen, and she's talking about this. And they're waiting for the perfect time for the military to come in to take control. And Q the Stormrider has been warning people about that. This was coming 11.3, 11.3, this martial law. This is where the military comes in, and they're going to have their arrest wars. But they're doing it in a certain way to cause the lowest, so people don't die and kill each other in civil war. But there has to be 80% or over of the U.S. population that understand that something happened. So she's gauging this, and she gives all the information to the Department of Defense. But she also says there's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of task force from different divisions. So that means that there are people from different militaries that are also working together, and they have their own task force. These are military intelligence battalions. So this stuff is all coming out, and we'll post an interview. And we just want to say thank you to David Rodriguez. You're doing such a great job. You're a great influence around the world. And we want to give some props to him. Get a chance, follow David, Rodriguez Nino. He's really important. And then also, Trump, what's going on? Trump is getting indicted. He's getting indicted. But this is all a setup that's going to happen in the next months. And don't get scared when Trump gets indicted. Behind the scenes, inside the cables, these are military movements. You're beginning to understand. Q the Stormrider was telling you for a long time that these events were going to happen. Trump's arrest, everything was going to be exposed through the courts. And Q told you that this has to be done by the books. That means when Trump gets arrested and he's indicted and he's inside court, that's going to happen before 6 months, that this is all a setup. So even though everything seems like the lady's going to be a deep state, she's going to be the judge that's going to be coming in. And the whole thing is a setup. She's actually been placed to indict Trump. That way Trump will expose the military coup of 2020. This is connected to the Department of Defense. This is connected to this lady, Jenna Hayes, who's giving out the information, and she's allowed legally to speak about all these projects from the United States being a broken corporations, to Trump signing executive orders for military intervention if a coup ever happened. So there's a lot of stuff to this, and she's actually telling you directly that these are military operations, and everything, it depends on timing, the timing of what's going to happen. Now, behind the scenes, Congress is still waiting for that, the Epstein, they're going to drop it. Musk is waiting. He's going to drop it. When it comes out, it's going to go worldwide. There's a lot of people who's going to drop this. There's a lot of people through the world who's going to expose what's happening in different countries with military coups, with the cover-ups. But everything starts from the United States. The collapse of the CIA, the exposure of the military coup, and this will connect to different countries, MI6, CIA. And then what's going to happen in Europe this winter, it's going to be really tough as they go through a hard winter, gas shortage, and everybody's going to get angry because of the food shortage that will come, and then the inflation, and then everything's going to collapse in Europe in the next 6 months. But this will connect to the exposure of the CIA controlling Germany, controlling France, controlling these different countries. And that's why inside of Germany, the military also is waiting there for their own 11.3. They have their own protocols of laws of war to arrest their bad military intelligence that's been working with the deep state. And these different countries have their own protocols. So this is the storm that's happening, that's coming. And this is our short update. But we want to make sure that we share the link below, and we want everybody to know that these military operations are real. The Q operations were completely true. Now everything's being vindicated that Q the Stormrider was talking about. So we'll keep you updated this week with all the other news that's also happening. Okay, everybody, please watch the video below. Bye.